Okie dokie, so here we go. Since I'm in a kind of depressing mood, I'm going to tell you the one thing that I can never get over. It's actually a cause of my PTSD, a major cause of my PTSD, a major cause of my guilt from wartime. So it was my first deployment, best friend from AIT. We got deployed together. 7 years, first deployment. First deployment was in July of 2012. Kabul, Afghanistan, a small village, 2 clicks outside of Kabul. In the middle of the afternoon. Lost 3 guys that day. 2 of them I didn't know, one of them being my best friend. And I barely remember the firefight. I just remember the mist. And running my hand across my face and just seeing red. I thought I got hit for a second. I still remember the smell of the air. I still remember the smell of iron and gunpowder. But it happened in the middle of a small village, in the middle of the street. We were going through on a patrol when a shot hit the front window of the convoy, and then something exploded to the left of us. And at that point, we figured that it'd be better to stand by and take cover, and that's what we did. When we got out of the Humvee, I turned to my left and looked, and he was just standing there in a daze as bullets were literally whizzing past our head. And it's funny because, sitting at basic training in AIT, we're all gun ho. We'll never get shell shocked. We'll fight through it. We'll never be that guy. You hear stories about the word shell shock, which means you lose all sense of reality when you're in a battle. You either crouch down in a ball and turn into the fetal position, or you just stand there because you don't know what's going on because the shock of war has hit you. If anybody ever tells you they never got shell shocked in their first firefight, they're lying. They did either one of 2 things. Well, one of 3 things, I should say. They pissed themselves, they froze, or somehow, some way, they fought through it. And that's a fact. I've never heard any story about someone's first firefight where they've never either pissed themselves, thrown up, or froze. Well, the first time I experienced shell shock wasn't me experiencing it. It was me losing a friend with one of the worst firefights I've ever been part of. And thanks to my drill sergeants being all former infantry, they drilled into my head, if you're standing still, you're dead. Fight to the last breath. So when it hit, I kind of blacked out, but my training kicked in. For my best friend, it was different. He was standing in the middle of a firefight, just standing there stunned, dazed, didn't know what to do, fumbling with everything. And for whatever reason, he wanted to know where the enemy was. Instead of just getting into cover, he wanted to know where the enemy was. So I took out the back of his backpack, our gear, so it's not technically backpack, flak jacket, which is like our bulletproof vest, but it's plates. And I threw him and myself up against the Humvee door, and I had a hold of his collar, and because all I could feel was him trying to look over the top of the hood of the Humvee, and I kept pulling him down every time he kept looking, while also returning fire at the same time. And at that point, I don't know, we had been in the firefight for at least what felt like forever, but it was only like 5 minutes. I had already went through 5 mags and I was coming on to my last mag, so I hollered for a mag. And the guy to my left, threw me a mag, and it was just slightly out of reach, so I let go of my buddy for all of 10 seconds to catch that mag so I could keep it on me. And in that 10 seconds, pretty much my entire world stopped. All of a sudden, I felt a warm mist on my face. And then I looked to my left, and Grotham was no more. He took 2 to the head. He was no longer recognizable. And till the day that I die, I will blame myself, even though I know it's not my fault, that's the casualties of war. If I had kept holding on to him and not tried to grab the mag that was flying through the air, he would still be alive. And I every day I tell myself that, and I've come to accept that he'll never come home. But those 3 seconds could have changed so much. If the guy had handed me the mag, I don't know. It's something that I will forever live with. It's one of the major guilts of surviving, because technically I was keeping him alive, and I let go of him for all 3 seconds. He stood up and took 2 to the head. I killed 6 people that day, because after Gotham fell, I blacked out, and I went AWOL, like Lord of the Rings style. When Frodo gets stabbed and everybody just goes like superhuman. But apparently I charged I guess, bodega or deli that was in front of us. I charged it balls to the walls, took 2 out, and put a grenade through the front of it. Firefight was all of 15 minutes. Still feels like to this day it was almost 5 hours long. Oh yeah, I puked. I puked for the day as long. When the adrenaline wore off and we were sitting in the barracks, yeah, I cried. I puked. I broke again. Pretty much. Mentally broke again. Difference being this time I had the skills, the training, and the knowledge to pick myself up and get back to work. That's pretty much what I did. To the point that when we got back to base, I got screamed at for leaving cover. I got that a boy, an attaboy, but I also got told if I ever did that again, they'd make sure I was on the first plane home. Told them I didn't remember anything. And then they told me again, they had to tell me again that Gotham didn't come home. And then I remembered that instant, and that's the only instance I really remember. I don't remember anything afterwards. That's one of my darkest demons of being deployed. And I don't, I've come to cope with it, but I don't know if I truly accepted that it's not my fault. I say it, but in reality, I don't think I will ever accept that it's not my fault, because I was keeping him alive. I had a hold of him. I knew he wasn't there, but in the heat of the moment, I let go. Pretty much, like I said, if it wasn't for those 3 drill sergeants that I had, that fucking beat the living ever shit out of me and made me push to the furthest extent that they possibly could, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you today. They knew what we were in for. They made sure we were going to survive it. Yeah, I know, it's a lot more information than you got last time, but depression does that to you. You remember every sound, scream. Worst part was I didn't get to even go to his funeral. That was the first week of my 8-month deployment, so I never got to go to his funeral. I had to visit his grave, but I never actually got to lay my best friend to rest. I mean, I know deep down he would understand. We had our duty and our job to do.